Hello everyone, my name is Carl. Welcome to my workshop and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the day that we're going to move the engine from the museum at Moravia into the workshop. So I think Lyndon's just turned up outside with his trailer, I can hear him. So without further ado, let's get on. So we should manage with this.
When the camp used to be, and then it's just
There we go, engine's in the back of the trailer. Okay, yeah. Perfect. That's perfect. Thank you for that. There now, will you look at that? Thanks to Lyndon's help, it's arrived. It's here. It's in the workshop. So the first job, I think, well, one of the first jobs, I'm going to make some kind of a wooden cradle for it, just to, nothing too fancy, just a bit of plywood with some wheels on it so I can move it around easily. And I want to get it hoisted up on the crane and just get the oil drain plug out of it, get the oil drained out of it, drop the filter, just check, see what that's like. And maybe take the HP cork actuator off and give that a test. Yeah, but it's here, finally. I'm really pleased about it, as you can probably imagine. Hello everyone. Oh great. Well, it's the morning after the day before, and like all morning afters, I'm feeling a little bit of a hangover after the huge festivities and hooting and roaring of the previous period. So, as you can see, I've got the engine suspended on the crane, and I've had a good chance in the light in the workshop now that we're out of that godforsaken rub hanger, to have a proper look at it. And I've made much of its low operating hours and low running hours, and it's in really good condition, despite the fact that there is a little bit of corrosion on it. You know, it's a bit dirty, but once you get underneath all that, it's actually not bad at all. So today's task, should I choose to accept it, which I don't have much of a choice, is to blank off any openings and orifices and give it a really good pressure wash outside, out the front. So that's that'll be this morning's work, and get all the crud and grease and muck and general detritus off it. There's still a lot of bird feathers in the back of the turbine. I don't know why I felt the need to say bird feathers. They're not going to be dinosaur feathers, are they? It's not that old. But yes, anyway, the other thing I want to do this morning before we get it outside and pressure wash it, whilst we're blanking off all the orifices, I will drop the oil out of it as well, because we've had a couple of mishaps in here already where it's been a bit like a newborn in that it's trying to spew numerous different fluids out of various orifices. So we want to make sure that doesn't go any further. And what I'll do is I'll give you another go around it. I know you've had a couple now, but in the better light in here, it's probably worth just having a go around it again, and I'll show you the salient points. And there's one or two things that I've discovered that I didn't even know were there, so you know, it's worth a look. Anyway, let's get on with it. So as I just said, it's the morning after, and the hangover's kicked in after the jubilant celebrations of yesterday. So you can see I've got it. I've got the engine suspended on the crane, and yes, I'm using a cargo strap as a lifting device, as a strop. I know it's not the best, but you know, it's perfectly acceptable in this scenario. I've got it wrapped around the center of the engine, which I kind of guessed that would be the C of G, and it is. So it's picked it up. Oh, that's a fridge behind me. It's picked up the engine without any tilt, which is good, because the thing's decided it's going to throw the contents of any fluid inside it onto the floor. It seems to have taken that up as a hobby since it came in here. But we'll start at the front face of the gearbox. Now that we're out of the rub hanger, we've got some light. We can see it a bit better. So there's an extensive drain system on this engine, and that's the drain tray at the back there. You'll remember us talking about that when we were in the rub. And because back in the day, what you used to do was, if you had any noxious fluids that you didn't want in certain places, you just chucked them overboard. And you know, it's somewhat frowned upon in the 21st century, so when we do run the engine, we'll have to have a drip tray underneath that, I would think, just to spare people's blushes. So we have got on the injector block, obviously we've got a fuel drain on that runs down to this T-piece. There's another drain goes on there, and then, which I can't actually remember what it was for now, but it'll come back to me. May have been from the hydraulic pump. Yes, it was. It was from the hydraulic pump seal drain. Speaking of seal drains, if we move around here, look, you can see there's a seal drain on the fuel pump. So that runs down into the T-piece there, into the main drain system, and that drain line runs through past the sump and in between the sump and the blower intake there. So if we go around here, look, if we come around the side of the combustion chamber, there's another drain. That's a fuel drain for the combustion chamber to stop fuel pooling inside the main air casing. So that runs down underneath here, past the filter, the oil filter, below the turbine housing, and into this banjo, which is also part of the drain system. So the banjo there is communicating with the air casing, because the main air casing, because what that's doing is providing an outwards differential pressure to make sure that the drain goes in the right direction, and also it's preventing any fuel from pooling in the air casing. So that's creating a draw essentially as well to pull any fuel that's pooled in the combustion chamber air casing out and dump it overboard. So there's all the main drain connections there. That thing there, that big block that I told you was a fuel drain, I told you a porky. That's actually what's called the re-oil connection, which is essentially where we fill the sump up from. There's a big connector under there, a big BSP, which is meant to go to a pipe and an external oil reservoir, which I don't have, which I should have really, because it should have been connected to the nacelle, but it wasn't. So kind of feel a little bit like my leg's being lifted there, but never mind. We'll let that one pass. So this is the main oil drain quill here from the turbine bearings. You can see that's running straight back into the sump, which is what you want it to do. You want the oil from the turbine bearings to get away as quickly as possible with no back pressure whatsoever. There's the oil filter. So we'll probably whip that off later today. Moving around, there's another vent there, look, in the main air casing. We can probably use that as a test point to measure the pressure in the main air casing when the turbine's running, when the compressor's running. That there is a mounting, which is corroded solid. So that is a turnbuckle style mounting, because this would have been 3-point mounted when it was in the aircraft. And that would have passed through the nacelle and out through the bottom. And the nacelle itself had another 2 mountings at the front. So we'll do something similar to that when we put this in a frame. Here we've got the sump heater with its attendant breeze plug. And how much do you want to bet that's not going to want to come off? So Herman Smith Limited of Dudley, Worcestershire. So it's all been made in the same sort of area. These engines were made in Solihull by Rover. So Dudley, if you're not from the UK, Dudley is in that area. It's a part of the UK, which was basically the cradle of the Industrial Revolution. And there was a lot of manufacturing and engineering went on there. And the date on that is move back to improve focus, it says there. I think it says 8/64, so August 64. Perhaps you can see that better than me. 24 volts, 25 amps, 800 watts, I think that is. Yeah, so that keeps the oil nice and warm and keeps the viscosity of the oil down to a level that it'll actually get pumped. So let's have a look as we move around. I want to show you something underneath here. An interesting thing, which I might need some light for. I will need some light for. Let's get the light. Right. Let's get the light correct. Under the sump, or on the sump, you can see, can you see there, look? There is a temperature bulb that's never been connected to anything. I wonder why that is. It's in the manual, and I just assumed, because I couldn't see a loom for it when we actually stripped everything in the rub. I couldn't see a wiring loom connection for it, and I just assumed it had been blanked off with a, with a plug. But there it is, look. It's been fitted but not connected. That's unusual. I wonder why that was. It's just acting as a blank, essentially, there. Not doing any temperature measuring. But interesting. So we'll get that working, I think, if we possibly can. So we'll move back round to the front again now. So looking underneath, we can see the bottom of the sump. And there is the... I'm dropping the torch. Don't want to do that. There's the oil drain plug there. I thought that was another drain plug, but it's actually the back end of a pressure relief valve, so that if the filter gets blocked, the oil just relieves and goes past the filter. So we'll get some tools out and we'll drain the oil out of this beast before it drains its own oil out everywhere. And then we'll have a think about getting it outside and giving it a blast of water once we've got everything blanked off. So straight away you can see what the problem's going to be, and we should have noticed this before, or I should have done, is that that's not going to come out because we have the oil cooler connection here from the bottom of the gearbox in the way. Now, I was hoping that I was going to be able to get all my tools put away. We're still working out of the blue toolbox, because having this little blue toolbox has been an absolute godsend to me, but it's also been doing my OCD no good whatsoever, because all my tools are in different places. So that plug, this one here, as I'm sure you're already aware, is 9/16 BSF, or 1/2 inch Whitworth if you prefer. But this one here, this cap, is such a mixture of various different systems. That's going to be 7/8 AF, because that's one I bought. It's not an AGS plug, it's just a G. So that is going to have to come off. We're going to remove that entire fitting there, which is, as I'm sure you're aware, 7/16 Whitworth or 1/2 inch BSF. So we'll get that all out, and then we should be able to get that plug out. Right, we'll get this locking wire cut first. That's that off, and that is wire locked to the aforementioned filter relief valve. So that's that off. Right, let's get that blank off with a 7/8 AF. This is going to, improve your knowledge of fittings, if nothing else. So nothing came out of there. That's a good thing. Good thing. Sound like a funk. It's a funk odyssey now. Right. So this is going to be, as I said before, 1/2 inch BSF, or if you prefer, 7/16 Whitworth. That's that fitting out of there. There she blows. You're zoomed in a little bit, so you can see what I'm doing. So apologies if it makes you feel a bit funny. Get that bonded seal off there. It is a bonded seal. Yeah, it's a bonded seal. not a sealing washer. There we go. I can already smell the OX38. Right, now we can get that drain plug out. And I have got a drip tray. Well, it's not really a drip tray. It's an old plastic tub, but it's going to serve as a drip tray. So we can get a socket on that now, can't we? So I need a 9/16 BSF or 1/2 inch Whitworth, which I happen to have one of. There it is. There it is. Following on with the Funk Odyssey theme. Right, 1/2 inch Whitworth. Let's get the impact on it. Get some impact on the go. Perhaps not. Oh, there she goes. Yep, she's out. Oh, well, I was kind of expecting a torrent of something, but didn't get anything. Ooh. But there is. Ah, yeah, that's not very good. Magnetic chip detector. Doesn't have any chips on it, but it is rather grimy and horrible. So do you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to whip the, yeah, it's all black and horrible, look. I'm going to whip, it is magnetic. Yeah, see? It's attracting the bonded seal. I am going to remove the sump heater and have a look inside the sump. That's what I'll do. I'll bring you back when I do that. So there wasn't any metal on the chip detector. I cleaned it up. It was horrible and black, the oil in there, but no metallic particles. What I've decided to do is I don't want to run out of time this morning because I have other priorities I've got to see to. So I want to get this thing cleaned. So I'm going to put the plug back in and put this other fitting back in, and then we'll get everything blanked off, and we'll get outside and get this thing cleaned. Let's put the put that back in. So what it would appear then is that there's no oil in the sump. It looks like it's been completely drained. And there was oil in the gearbox, but I suspect that was residual. So we'll get it outside and we'll get it washed off. And then we can go from there. From there up, as a certain person used to say. Right, there we go. So that's it done and back in the workshop. It's a lot better than it was. I've got a lot of the thick dirt off it now, most of the thick dirt, and you can actually see what colour things are supposed to be. So as you saw, I pressure washed it. I sprayed it down with some aqueous cleaning solution first, and I worked that in with a brush, and then I pressure washed it, as you saw. And then I let it drip dry for 10 minutes, dried it off with a cloth, and then blasted it with compressed air. And the temptation to spin the turbine round with the compressed air was almost overwhelming, but you'll be pleased to hear that I managed to resist it. So yeah, I think that's going to be it for the turbine for a while. We're going to have to go back onto the mill now. What I'd like to do, I think, is get this actuator off and get that tested, so maybe we'll get that done this week. So that's the end of another one, folks. A fairly short one this time. I just wanted to show you as getting the engine into the workshop and getting it cleaned up as best I can to the state that I can actually start to work on it. Running out of time a little bit now. I've got to go back to work next week. It's now Tuesday and I should be traveling next Monday. So we might get some more done on the engine before I leave. If we don't, I've got everything done that I wanted to get done. I've got it out of its nacelle. I've got the main ancillaries removed from it. I have got most of them tested. I have got the engine shifted to the workshop in here, and I've got it pressure washed to a state where I can actually physically work on it without getting absolutely manky. I've bought a new addition for the workshop. It's nothing massive. It's just I nearly said a plasma cutter. It's not a plasma cutter. It is a ultrasonic cleaning bath, which I'm going to call the Buzzer. My brother calls his one. My brother at Retro Mechanica calls his one the Squeaky Cleaner. Mine's going to be the Buzzer after the infamous Soviet 1980s number station. So we'll get some of the parts in that, hopefully maybe this week as well. As I said, I want to get that actuator tested if I can. But you've had a massive raft of turbine videos from me, bang, 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 one after another, in this period that I've been home, which is kind of unusual for me to post so frequently. Thank you very much for sticking with it and watching them and putting up with me, by the way, because I really do appreciate that. But as of now, it's going to slow down a little bit with the turbine, and we're going to have to concentrate back on the mill to get that finished, which I really want to do before any really in-depth stuff on the turbine begins. But we'll be doing little bits and pieces here and there on the turbine, so stay tuned for that. As ever, thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you very much for commenting and for giving me a like. Please do give me a like. It really helps. It boosts me up and makes the algorithm of YouTube, whatever that is, nobody really seems to know, puts me in the right direction, kind of puts me down those rabbit holes, and I pop out in different places. If you're not subscribed, please do consider doing that, and I'd love to have you along for the journey with the mill and the engine. Things are going to get really interesting as we move along with the engine. So thanks again, and take care of yourselves, and I will see you on the next one.